Jegaysus.
Hello, heathens.
Hi, friends. Welcome to our Christmas episode. And as you all know, Christmas is all about the birth of Jesus. And birth of Jesus would not be possible without some kind of strange, immaculate conception, which would not be possible without some strange version of sex. And we thought the most appropriate version of our episode as the Unholy Trinity would be to talk about the Nookie.
Oh, not the no pants dance, please.
And as we
I think the Nookie is the most offensive thing I've heard.
The Nookie?
Yeah, it's just always sounded so weird to me, like, for the Nookie, for the Nookie, for the Nookie. Oh, God.
I mean, that's how...
Like, say the C word, please.
Corner talk about that song.
This is going to be a real fucking banger of an episode, if you know what I mean. You know?
As we pursue the holy horizontal monster mash, we will talk
A
about...
horizontal mamba, if you will.
I'm just going to be dancing like hair naked in the background.
Okay.
Y'all were a mess. Let's go.
Real talk. One of the things that we will talk about during this episode is understanding our own sexuality and embracing sex and embracing that human reality. Because Christianity really deals with this complicated idea of, like, conception.
It dehumanizes us?
And it dehumanizes. Like, it's odd because, like, from, like, the historical theological perspective, Christianity does not necessarily project an anti-enjoyable sexual ethic. It doesn't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
But then it became that over time, and here we are, people that have dealt with puritanical Christian religion, trying to figure out how to deal with sex. And so we thought, you know what? We're just going to talk about sex for Christmas. That's our Christmas present.
And to be upfront, obviously the disclaimer on this is that we only support sex if you put a board between you while you're laying in bed so that your bodies don't touch. And that is our position here. So...
Yeah.
That is...
I only support sex if it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
No, actually, that's a
Procreation
lie.
through artificial insemination
Unsurprising.
only.
Ooh, so hot right now.
I, on the other hand, as the staple Christian of this community, I am fully in support of all kink practices and non-procreative sex, and really all enjoyable orifices. So you feel free.
And he has
to
theological degrees, so you can say that this has been like an actual cited source. You can put this in a letter to your pastor.
Yeah. You now have a certificate.
You have a pass to enjoy yourself.
So, real talk, at some point in this episode, we need to talk about how I took human sexuality courses as part of my seminary degree.
Really?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I love human sexuality courses. This is my jam.
I love human sex.
You're like, I like sex. Yeah.
Do you not?
Okay, at a point in this conversation where it gets more serious, I do need to talk about, like, why human sexuality became such an important part of my education within seminary.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Like a real thing.
Okay. And outside of that, I mean, everyone just gear in, get ready to comment your little hearts out. Don't rate us for not being as theological as you like. Just keep those ratings to yourself, but drop, a like, a subscribe. I know that you guys generally enjoy this kind of taboo topic anyway, so we should be fine. Just, turn it off for the kids.
Yeah, y'all are nasty.
Turn it off for the kids on this one. If we always say that, like there's kids listening.
Topic? Did you just say taboo topic?
Taboo topics.
My entire life is a taboo topic at this point.
That rings so well. If that doesn't become
Christianity,
when we finally get our shit together, that's going to be such a good piece before our jingle, and then we go into our episode.
Oh, I would love that.
It's nice that you think we're ever going to get our shit together.
Yeah, until we have somebody who's a full-time producer, it's not going to be happening.
And on that note,
we're looking for a full-time producer.
If anyone would like to produce for us, please send an email.
By full-time, I mean
or
just doing all the production, not 40 hours a week.
It won't even take that long. I just can't.
I'm about to go into a full-time program for school, which I had to add another course to. We're getting off topic already. Okay, sex. Let's talk about sex, baby.
So let's deal with sexuality in response to the Bible. What the hell would that even be?
What
right?
is that? I mean, I'll jump in firstly. The Bible doesn't do a very good critique of sex, either in the positive or in the negative. Like, so there's not a lot of stipulations on what not to do in the bedroom, and it's also not a roadmap of what you should be. Save for maybe Song of Songs, where it does have, like, a pretty good, you know, erotic moment between, like, touching and smelling and licking and giving permission, basically, to explore your partner's body. Outside of that, there's not really a rule book, is there?
I just want to point out that it's very odd to me, and we can get into this later, that people would believe in a God that created us in such a way that we would enjoy our bodies and then also forbid us from enjoying our bodies. Right?
Like, if he had the power to create us to be non-sexual beings, why not just make us asexual reproducers? Why can't we just split off half of our anatomy and go?
Y'all are touching on, like, one of my pet peeves. Can I just, like, rant?
Of course.
Yes, please. Do it. That's what she said.
The Puritans can kiss the biggest part of my ass. Like, I am so angry at puritanical Christianity because it was firmly united with Aristotelian philosophy. This idea that there is an earthly imperfect and a heavenly perfect, and we are so imperfect and dirty and wrong and broken. And that is colonial Christianity at its core. And I'm so fucking pissed.
Is that separate from, or is that related to moral depravity or complete moral depravity?
Okay, so there would not be Aristotelian-inspired Christianity without moral depravity. There is no way to separate the two. So, like, Calvin, at his core, is an anxiety-ridden Christian lawyer with no theological training that we have decided to make a theological source. On one extent...
There goes our Calvinist audience. We had so many.
R.I.P. It's super real, y'all.
Well, like, in one sense, that doesn't necessarily insult him. It just insults everyone that wants to venerate him.
Yeah.
He knew he wasn't theologically trained. No, go ahead.
Well, it also
Go ahead.
explains why he just came up with so much
he's writing in
random
a
shit.
different time and space. That's not to say... Like, I am not a Calvinist defender in any way, shape, or form, but I think, like, it's weird to me that people will take his theological viewpoint and make it gospel without examining the time and space in which he lived and, like, the sort of background to his understanding and the context and all of that. Because it was very different than where we're living now, and it was also very different from when the Bible was written. So, like, everything is influenced by the existing kind of status quo or the desired status quo.
Same can be said for anyone. I mean, look at Augustine. Why is he so venerated when, like, dude just had
because his dad saw he had a boner at a bathhouse.
So, I mean, that was a perfect episode to talk about that. What's the story between Augustine's boners?
Like, this is my official, like, gold star. Like, we need to do an episode about this. Like, we need to do an episode about mental health and theological history. Because 3 big theologians would accredit their foundings to some form of anxiety.
Yeah.
Luther.
Me too.
Augustine. Well, actually 4. Luther, Augustine, John Wesley, and Martin Luther. Well,
and
no,
Paul.
I already did that one. John Calvin. And I suppose Paul as well. So, yeah, that would be 5. Paul, Augustine, Martin Luther, John Wesley, and John Calvin. Like,
Paul didn't have sex, okay?
No, he never did. He thought about one time.
Paul was perfect. He just murdered thousands, but he was perfect, and he didn't have sex.
I wonder if he got off on murdering thousands. If he had,
you know what? He probably had a paraphilia thing. He probably was sexually attracted to murder and pillage.
This is the weirdest sex episode that I've ever imagined. Yeah.
Hey,
sorry, y'all. It's going to be a train wreck, and
You put armchair theologians together, ask them to talk about sex, and this is what you get.
I said what I said.
And, like, technically speaking, I'm a technical theologian, and
you
I'm still an
yes.
armchair.
That's true.
Okay. So, the Nookie. So, there is this long, complicated, ugly history between Christianity and sex. And it actually has very little to do with Christianity. It has a lot to do with Neoplatonism. Neoplatonism...
What's that?
Yeah. Neoplatonism is the suggestion within a variety of philosophical minds, one of which being Aristotle, and the namesake being Plato, the teacher of Aristotle, suggesting that there was a heavenly perfect and there was an earthly imperfect. That is, that the earth, everything about material reality is a shadow of the heavenly perfect and is by proxy imperfect. Everything here is not as good as that which is up there. And so basically everything that's fleshly is broken and weird and wrong, but not in like fun ways. And everything heavenly. This is the right out.
That's like very much a Stoic mentality, right?
Yes. So like Stoic and Stoicism is often associated with like a non-mystical philosophy. But
it's also just anti-flesh, for whatever that means.
Paul presents a charismatic Stoicism, which is something interesting to explore later. Like Stoicism, like Pauline theology would not exist without Stoicism, and I mean that in the best of ways. So like later on, we should definitely address that. Probably not today, because we're going to talk about sex. And there's no things that make us closer to sex than, like, goodness, who makes you feel more distant than Stoic philosophy?
It's not making me very turned on right now.
Literally, no one makes me less turned on than Paul. No, outside of Ben Shapiro.
Okay, wait. Can we talk about Ben Shapiro? Because I made a comment the other day, and because I don't have a lot of followers, because, I mean, sure, the audience knows I've been banned currently. Follow me at Jegaysus.lives.
Yeah, please.
Well, now they do.
They didn't before. I need to throw that up there. I made a comment on somebody the other day because they were, like, talking about, like, oh, you know, Ben Shapiro is a proof that, like, anger makes you unattractive or whatever. And I had to make a comment. Like, I want to sleep with Ben Shapiro so badly, and I can't figure out what it is and why I'm so attracted to him. I hate him as a person.
You do?
Mm-hmm. I hate him as a person, but something about me, I don't know if it's just I want to hate fuck him, or like if this is like an angry, visceral response where like anger turns into passion, but I find him extremely attractive. I find him extremely vile, but extremely attractive. What does that mean about me?
You. I want to stomp on his fucking head, so I can't relate.
But like not while you're sleeping with him? Those are two different feelings? Okay.
He thinks that wet vaginas are a disease.
Yeah, because he means to sleep with a gay guy. That's why.
Oh, in that case, whatever. Then, is this your coming out of the closet, Ben? I support you, and I'm so happy to welcome you to this community.
Oh God, he's gonna stitch this, isn't he? He's gonna do a YouTube reply.
I hope so. We'll get so many additional followers. Also, if you're out there, fuck you, Ben. All right, let's go on.
Call me.
You know, I relate to this.
Jegaysus means that seriously and literally. Call me. Just also shut up while I do it.
If we were to take away the everything about him and just leave his symmetry, he is not ugly. He is not a person. He's also a smart person. I would also argue that he is like inexplicably neurodivergent.
Mm-hmm.
And now,
he has a neurosis that I find attractive. I think that's my Jewish side coming out. Like, he has that Jewish neurosis that I'm like, yeah, me too.
He gives me 5'3" energy, and I can't get
Oh my god,
it.
that's my, like, type, though. 5'3" to 5'6" is, like, my target demo. Speaking of sex,
but
sometimes you're just attracted to things for no reason, people.
That's true. That is true. I'm trying very hard not to judge you.
And with that, we have firmly entered the notion of understanding human sexual attraction. Like,
it's a lot.
I knew it would be a good transition.
Like, I'm here to keep this on whatever rails are possible to exist.
There's no
rails tonight.
There's no rails. I'm pretending there are, though.
Okay.
And it makes me feel better.
Floating through space at this point.
Why talk about this inexplicably human trait of sexuality, this inexplicably material trait of sexuality on what would be our Christmas episode? one of the things that I find most frustrating about current day Christianity is frankly, it's heresy. Its willingness to pretend that it cares about the person of Jesus, when in reality it only cares about this Gnostic spirit of Jesus, while also pretending it's not Gnostic, because that's heresy. This physical incarnation of the body of Jesus is supposed to be
He said what he said, bitch.
I meant it. Every bit of it.
I've never heard a harder punch thrown, and I want to put it on a billboard. Modern Christianity is focused on the gnosis and spiritual person of Jesus while pretending it's not Gnosticism. Bam. Which
so
is
hot
heresy.
right now.
I need that on a t-shirt.
That's what it is, though. Like, I'm so disappointed at how Christian youth groups pretend to teach people Christianity while also teaching them to be Gnostics, while also considering it heresy. Like, deny your flesh. No, motherfucker, you are inherently flesh, just like how Christians think Jesus was. And Jesus was this incarnate person, 110% material while being divine. Like, you know what that means? Jesus had nighttime emissions.
I'm telling you, Jesus had morning wood, and no one will ever change my mind. Because
He
it's not
for
a sin.
sure had moral wood.
Moral wood.
Morning
wood, yeah.
He for sure had morning wood.
that's
But I'm still very
Gnosticism.
much in the camp that he is asexual.
I really legitimately hope that at some point in his lifetime, Jesus got his dick sucked. I'm not gonna lie. I wish that for him. If you're going to come to this earth at a time when there is no plumbing, and you are going to be nailed to a fucking wooden cross when God could have sent you back at a time where you could have just been, like, gassed to death, or potentially, like, shot in the back of the head, or just, like, fallen asleep and died, at least he got a fucking blowy. Am I wrong?
feel like they're
No.
probably, I feel bad for the person on the giving end of that, because I feel like there probably wasn't as good hygiene standards as there is today, like once a week
Oh,
baths.
absolutely not.
So I feel very bad for the person engaging in the oral. But
But at least they were probably circumcised.
he would have been circumcised, because again,
It's not that I support circumcision,
No.
but in this day and time,
now we have
when there was a
cleaning
lack
standards.
of hygienic
Yes.
standards.
Yeah.
And that means one day we will have to address the hygienic standards of circumcision. But real talk.
For the record, I'm not saying I support circumcision. I do not want a bunch of, like, hate comments. I'm just saying.
I support a person's right to choose circumcision.
Exactly.
But not the parent.
But what I am saying is, like, if you had no circumcision and also no, like, real hygienic standards, I'm not putting that in my mouth.
I read an article in seminary called Jesus Poops. It was dealing with this problem of modern day heresy. So
Can we come up with a new word, though? Because I feel like heresy is used as a trigger from, like, the evangelicals to be like, you're being a heretic. And I'm like, I'll smoke my heretic drugs all day. Like, I love heresy.
that's
not
fair.
an insult.
Okay. That's reasonable. Okay. There are very few crossovers between 1st to 3rd century Christianity and modern American Protestant Christianity. But one of them is this idea that Jesus is fully human and fully God. That is one of homoousia is what it's called. So that is one of the only same nature. That's the idea. That's one of the only things that crosses over well.
I came up
The
with a word you
problem-
can use, antithetical.
Ooh,
Antithetical.
antithetical.
Great word. So there aren't a lot of good crossovers between, like, the historical Christianity and modern American Christianity, but one of them is that. And the problem is, a lot of modern American Christians believe that they are 100% fleshly in the desire to ignore all of their desires to pursue what is righteous, which is spiritual, which is a suggestion that those two things are fundamentally separated, when through Jesus they are fundamentally united. That is one of the big heresies of modern-day Christianity, is this idea that Jesus is one way and we are fundamentally the opposite while following him. That is Christian heresy. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It's just so frustrating to hear it out loud because it's true. And I mean, so many of us, at least I should say, grew up in a purity culture and like this obsession with purity when it's so far removed from anything that was in the text. And I feel like it. Again, it's antithetical, but more importantly, it's just used as a control device more than it is used as any kind of, like, pursuit of spiritual knowledge, of teaching, of any honest discourse and what it means to, like, set healthy boundaries with yourself. It's basically using psychology and like, a premise of trying to, like, teach people boundaries, use it as a guise, like, pick up good buzzwords, like, you know, protecting your spirit or whatever they tell you. And it's using these things that are actually good concepts. Everyone should learn boundaries. Everyone should learn how to respect their body. But then perverting it and then using it against you to make you the problem and you a bad person for any other violation than what they want you to do. It's a power dynamic, and it's a power dynamic of control, and it's gross. And no wonder they don't want to teach you actual boundaries, because if you learned actual boundaries, you'd realize that the church has no business saying what to do with your body.
That is so real. As someone that was never in youth ministry, but was adjacent to it, I can say that I am thrilled to say that everyone I ever worked with in youth ministry was never problematic. Thrilled.
That's awesome.
They're amazing
and also
people.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, like, I can think of the 3 people that were in those roles over the 6 years that I was in those spaces. They're amazing human beings. But we also would occasionally do crossovers with other churches, and holy shit, if that wasn't the biggest, like, I've never wanted to touch a man in the head so hard in my life. Like, that was, like, how dare you say that to other men's daughters? I wish that we could meet in some other space.
Yeah.
Like,
but also the fact that, like, women are viewed that lens of, like, how, no shade to you, but just, like, oh, how dare you say that to somebody else's daughter? Like, no, just how dare you say that to somebody else that is a person, like, fully autonomous.
100%.
And again, like, no shade to you. It's just the, like, clarification that it's, like,
also because that comes
purity
from
culture.
Evangelical churches thinking that women are the only ones who need to be told what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, daughter is the
and
default because that's
like
the only person they're focused on is women.
No one's ever worried about, like, somebody's son.
Right.
Everyone's always worried about somebody's daughter and how they're behaving, if they're attractive, if they're covered up, if they're whatever. And, like, speaking as someone who experienced this, it creates a massive fucking complex. That exists. I'm 32 years old, and it exists to this day, and I am actively unlearning it to this day.
Wait, I think this is a good segue. You can say what you're about to say, Andrea, but I really want to touch on how you're 32 and unlearning what purity culture has done, because I think that speaks to, like, sexual awakening and how do you undo, like, the outward thoughts people have put into your head about what sex should be and what sex you should like and what sex makes you, you know, dirty as compared to pure.
Yeah.
We really should cover how that undoes and how you unlearn these bad things.
I think you're asking me specifically.
I'm asking all of us. I think that should be the next topic.
Yeah, I don't want to be the only voice.
No, that should be our next topic.
No, because I think it resonates across. So I do think that women take the brunt of it in the evangelical church.
Yeah.
But that being said, I don't think that the only impact is felt by women. I think men also feel the impact. I just think that it's
as a gay man, I can attest.
Yeah. I hope I'm saying that right. Like, I think that women do get the brunt of the teaching and the lectures and the whatever, but it certainly does not go without effect for men.
How
in
it
that
feels
community.
looking from the male side of that is men were taught to control themselves while women were taught they were the problem.
That feels right. Yeah.
I feel like, Jegaysus, you and I would have similar perspectives. I got to pretend to be straight very quickly. Like, it didn't take much. Like, I just go, okay, I'm just going to be straight right now. And just, like, make it obvious. And then they talked about how women were this. And honestly, this isn't a fault of American society or English society. This is inexplicably a problem with the imagery of the Bible. This is a problem with how the Bible makes imagery about... You both took a drink at the exact same time, and it made me so happy. That was hilarious. Okay, so...
We've been planning that for weeks.
The Bible does not even, for a second, consider a gaze other than the male gaze.
Yeah.
Not once. When it talks about wisdom, it's an alluring woman standing at the city gate. When it talks about temptation, it's a woman that would lead you down a path that could lead you to slaughter. When it talks about adultery, it's a woman with fine perfumes that can pull you into a tent. Like...
And drive a nail into your head.
Like... Love that image. Okay, but like, at its core... The entire image of sexuality for the Bible is not an image of human sexuality. It's an image of male sexuality in reference to their own religion.
Yeah.
That's the whole image of sexuality in the Bible. Like, the Bible never considers that a woman would be reading these texts. And that is probably the single most frustrating thing with treating the Bible as a legitimate document for all of us today. It's at its core, what would men think in a patriarchal society about women? And let's use all of our metaphorical imagery in response to it. That's why a lot of...
And that's the problem with assuming that the Bible is infallible.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, right? If you can accept that the Bible is written from a specific perspective at a specific time, then you can appreciate it for what it's saying.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it anything. It just makes it understandable for that time and space. But it doesn't make it applicable for thousands of years after that point.
In reality, based on what we know about the culture, would women have been barred from reading religious texts at the time? Because I feel like that's extremely important. And I'm thinking now even about like Orthodox Jewish scriptures, or I should say teachings. They have a very knowledge-based and, scholarly based approach to the men within Judaism, reading all the scriptures that they can and really devoting their life to studying, whereas the women have a very smaller set of ideals and texts that they can read. And so I feel like it would only make sense that was also the case 2,000 years ago.
So
I do also find it incredibly odd that God would find it acceptable to bring the Savior into this world via a woman, but then would prohibit her from speaking in church. That feels very much like a patriarchal society and not a fucking God-given directive.
Well, as we know, that comes from 2 Timothy, which is false.
Like, y'all are telling me that a woman is powerful enough to bring the Savior of the world from all time into this earth, but can't speak in public? What kind of God do y'all know?
So fucking heated right now. Like, I can't. If a woman can birth
I live
Jesus,
for heated, Andrew.
If a woman can birth Jesus, a woman can preach Jesus.
Yeah.
That's the entirety of your theology. Take that to your pastor. If they have a problem with it, reach out to me personally. My email is connected to our podcast.
Yeah.
I am...
Fight me directly.
Okay. But... real talk, this entire conflict that we're experiencing with this idea of, like, human sexuality and people's rights, the ugly history of those two things conflating together is that sex and sex crimes were part of conquering other peoples. Like,
yes.
Sex crimes were an inseparable piece of war in the ancient world. And
because women were property. Period.
Women were property. And so, like, if you could muddy the waters of the genetic reality of your people by, like, the Assyrians invading and raping the women.
The Hittites? Like...
yeah, like, all of that that is a part of the sexual, like, sex was viewed as a utility in the ancient world, not in all cases, but in many, as a means to conquer another people, to muddy the waters, to make the children of your brides look like your enemy, which would continue the warfare. And I hate to bring that into an episode about sex. That is real.
Let's
but it's real.
From that. So, like, let's get off the Bible for a little bit, and let's talk, like, personal sex. People sex.
Personal sex.
Today. All the sex today.
Oof.
I want to go over... I brought up the segue a little bit too early, but the segue of personal development and personal growth, and, like, I want to get your takes on sexual awakening and finding that doesn't have necessarily anything to do with your religion, that you can enjoy sex as a person and not as a job. I don't well, as a job if you want, but you know what I mean, like as like a chore, as a
like a purpose.
Yeah, let's go over it.
I have to do this thing in order to do this other thing.
Right.
I don't think that as Christians, at least speaking from my own experience, we were not taught that sex is worthwhile simply because you feel pleasure. Which is always a bit odd to me, considering that supposedly God made man and gave him all of his wants and desires, and then would somehow prohibit him from engaging in those things because they brought him pleasure.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me.
I'm not 100% sure with, like, how you were raised, but were you specifically within the Christian side of where a man's pleasure was valid and a wife's duty was to fulfill that pleasure?
Oh, absolutely. So technically I was raised non-denominational, but I feel like that kind of encompasses a wide variety of things.
Right.
But what I was taught was that, like, women should submit to their husbands regardless of scenario or circumstance, and that, like, if you withheld sex from your husband, that was viewed as
a marital crime, basically.
At least a problem, or I guess at least a problem, and also at worst, a sin.
See, I was raised non-denominational, and I was very much at a sex-positive church.
Oh, that's great.
Which, for sex-positive, it looks like no homosexuality, no premarital sex, only have sex with your husband and wife, make sure that you're trying to do it for procreation. But both parties are allowed to enjoy said sex. So I didn't have the same outlook growing up from my church, saying that women had to submit or that sexual pleasure was only for the man. So by that, I mean sex positive, but cut out every other aspect of sexuality, which is pretty much the church in a nutshell, isn't it? We're affirming, but still think you're going to hell.
Kinda.
We're sex positive, only for, marriage.
But not too much. Yeah. Okay, maybe we can talk about that, because I feel like the church thinks that they're sex positive, but what they mean is that they are lights off missionary position sex positive.
Pretty much.
That's what they mean.
Yes.
They don't actually mean that they're, like, all sex positive.
I have a friend on TikTok. Their name is Tori. I can't remember their handle directly off the top of my head. Oh, I think it's Salty Chaplin.
Is it Tori Bay?
No. Salty Chaplin. And they are specifically a pastor who deals with kinks and fetishes in a Christian way. So they are a theologian, they're non-binary, and specifically they deal with underserved communities who still want to pursue Christianity, but felt like they are too far out of the spectrum to be accepted. So they specifically minister to people who are into, like, bondage and S&M, or people who are cross-dressers.
Tie me up,
Yeah, anyone who doesn't fit the norm and feels like they are deviant for what their sexual pleasure is. And I think that's an amazing ministry.
I'm familiar with Salty Chaplin. Big fan. Absolutely.
Love it.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Is it my turn?
Go.
Yes, please.
This is
Absolutely.
a conversation.
There are a lot of layers to when I think about my sexuality in honest terms. The first is I was raised with a controlling Christian father who was under the impression that all young men fooled around. but he never inexplicably said that. And so every small piece of sexual interaction that I had throughout my life felt shameful.
Yeah.
My mom, on the other hand, swore by accident maybe twice, and that's like, and she got drunk once because she didn't know the punch had alcohol. That's the person she is. So she's like a saint incarnate and met this person who is my father. And so when I looked throughout my life, I remember the first time I experienced oral sex being when I was in middle school. I was 7th, 8th grade, and I felt guilty immediately. It was, and honestly, when I look back, if I remove all the morality, all the imposed morality from it, it was a beautiful moment because I was with someone who I cared about on a hill overlooking a city, and it was a beautiful...
He's getting that G-sup.
You just
So
took this
beautiful.
beautiful image and made it raunchy.
Sorry, that is who I am. That is not who Andrew is. Andrew experiences like life in its like fullness, and I'm like, so she sucked her dick.
Yeah, that's a good summary.
Okay.
Yes.
Right? Like
Andrew will give you a
Sorry.
poem, and we'll just
I
be
love you
like, you
so
wanted
much,
to
but,
bang.
like, that's
Okay.
No, but like this was a development moment, and I remember like lying to my father about where I was, why I wasn't in the movie, why he couldn't find out where I was, because I had this moment with this person, and it was beautiful, and at the time it was. I remember thinking, this is a decline in my spiritual health.
Oof. That's sad, but I agree. I understand. It's just sad.
See, I'm going to get a little personal
same.
right here, right now.
Yes,
so for the record, everyone, like, trigger warning, whatever. I was molested at a young age, right? So...
Me too. I'm very sorry for you.
Thank you. I mean, it was all right. Yeah. But it's not all right, but I've dealt with it. No, but for that reason, I always felt like in church specifically, I never really had as much of the purity hang up because for me, that whole like virginity topic was off the table. Yeah. I'm like, I've already been sexualized. I mean, I was only like 4 at the time. But for me, I'd already experienced sex. In my head, I thought that's what sex was from a young age. I mean, obviously, I learned that's not what sex is outside of that. But for me, I was already there. I was already sexually active. The conversation wasn't for me. So I never really had, like, this spiritual need, I guess, or anything around that per se to, like, abstain. I still didn't have sex until I was 16 because I was trying to pretend that good Christian. I think probably when I was 16 I had heard like reformed virginity at that point or second chance virginity and kind of took that up as a spiritual calling. So for me, I was like, I'm not going to have sex until I get married, but since I'm gay, I'll never be married. We'll have to deal with that later. So for me, I never really understood, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. I never understood sexuality being a spiritual thing because for me, I knew I wasn't a bad person, but I also wasn't untouched or unblemished.
This is a different episode, but one of the things I find most underwhelming about theology is its inability to address all of us. Its capacity to only address the majority of us. And even while it addresses the majority of us, it doesn't address the majority of us well. And so what that does is it reminds me of the majority of the other systems that we create in our natural world, which makes it an inexplicably normal system, which does not make it in any way otherworldly. And what that does is it does make it normalizes theology as a normal human phenomenon, but it doesn't make it exceptional in any way that makes it worth considering.
Right, we all have such personalized experiences, and there's no way to tailor fit one general sermon to a room full of 100 people to make it work on a spiritual level for each individual, is what you're saying.
Yes, and while I'm at it, I am fundamentally opposed to preaching as a practice. which is probably another topic altogether.
I like that. I feel like spirituality should exist in a one-on-one
here,
counseling form where you get to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody who may have more resources than you, but not necessarily more knowledge, and you work out a spiritual path together.
Let's one day redress the radical reformers that never got the credit that Martin Luther took the spotlight for. Because those people were okay. There were these people that existed the exact same time as Martin Luther that never got the credit they deserved. That were total reformationists that did not maintain any of the structures that Martin Luther wanted to hold on to, and those people do not get the spotlight that he took, and it pisses me off. Like they were beautiful spiritualists. And we should read their stuff because they have been saved by history, and that's not this episode. But, okay. So the way that Christianity affected my sexuality is to make me believe that my sexuality had no purity available unless it was experienced with someone I had already married.
Yeah.
And any activity pursued, any moment of romantic interaction with someone that was not my married partner was an affront to whoever was designed to marry me.
Yes.
Which made, and there's some misogyny here, not some, a lot, that I never considered when I was younger. Which
misogynistic energy.
Oh my gosh. That women were this kind of like tool designed to be my partner if I was worthy enough to wield her. Like she was this like Mjolnir, this like hammer of Thor, that if I was worthy enough, I could wield her. That is how women were presented to me.
Yeah.
Like this, like, if I was pure enough, I could hold the perfect vagina. Oh. That is how women were.
It do be hella valuable, I'm not gonna lie. But
the perfect vagina.
Yes.
But that's how it was. I remember.
See, I missed all of this theology as a gay kid sitting there, like, not for me, not for me, all went over my head.
Oh my gosh. I remember driving back from a hookup one night and hearing on Christian radio, "I love you, I'm waiting for you, I look forward to marrying you." And I remember sobbing.
Oh, God.
And
like, I love you, I wish had not done this.
Yeah,
thing,
I wish you didn't get your dick wet.
For the first time, it's going to be fucking awful.
Now I'm going to meet you, and I'm going to smell her on you years later.
No, but the emotional manipulation I experienced from 88.3 FM.
K-Love.
It was very similar to K-Love. But the reason they did it is because at its core, it was all based on a historical youth minister plot to make sure that fewer youth ministry kids impregnated each other. And to a certain extent, I appreciate and understand the utility. I get it. Like, you don't want kids to have to deal with the idea of, do I want to carry this child or not? I'm not about to enter that moral conversation.
Purity culture came solely out of trying to deal with the rise of teenage pregnancies as well as the AIDS epidemic.
And what a complicated conversation. Like, that is such a complicated conversation. I'm not going to pretend there's a right answer. But I'm pretty sure one of the wrong answers, if I'm not mistaken, is religious manipulation.
Yeah. Traumatizing people into being afraid and fearful of their bodies, probably the wrong answer. Teaching people that they will be condemned to hell if they don't abstain, probably the wrong answer. There's a lot of wrong answers in there. I understand the noble intentions were there, but they missed the mark by 1,000,000%.
Fully agree. And, like, gosh, I remember when I was a college minister doing a series called X-Rated, talking about sex. And, like, one of the first things I did, I loved that face, Jessica.
It was so good.
You're just like, oh, did you? Like, one of the first things I did is talk about how most of our bullshit theology comes from a heretical cult that Christians don't normally recognize, being the Manichaeans.
Yeah.
And And it was,
You're on mute.
it feels so good to do.
You're on mute,
Especially,
Jessica. I can see you mouthing words, but...
Oh my gosh.
I said it comes from St. Augustine, and I will die on this hill. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk.
Can I tell y'all that, like, one of the elders whose daughter was in that room learning from me was in that room, and it wouldn't be until, like, 6 years later he realized the purity culture that he invested in that harmed the sexuality of his daughters. Like, it was... I wish that we could come to the point to realize that our morality around sexuality has just as much to do with our politics around reproduction and our philosophy coming from secular sources as it does to do with our religious texts. But apparently we're not there yet.
We're getting there, I think. I think everyone just needs a prescription to go to an orgy. And you don't have to participate. I think you should just go.
But you can if you want
to jump into the pile. Yeah. But I feel like it's the best way to get over religious
so complicated.
Trauma.
Thank you,
ma'am. Did you all say
also orgies?
Pile?
I did. I said jump into the pile.
But also orgies have a requisite level of consent.
Yeah, they do.
That evangelical Christianity does not have.
That's true.
So, like, that's partially, I think that's why it's so freeing, because people will ask you if something is okay, if that's what you want, if you're enjoying it, yada, yada, yada. Whereas in evangelical Christianity, nobody gives a fuck.
Yeah.
You are a body that's there for a purpose. As a woman. I don't know about as a man, but as a woman, you're a body that's there for a purpose.
Too. If I would have been introduced to Kink culture early on in life, I would have not consented to a lot of sexual acts that I thought I was supposed to as a man.
That's deep.
I thought it was my duty to be present sexually in a lot of sexual acts that I, frankly, was not interested in. You know what? We have 10 minutes left in this episode.
Do we?
I guess it depends on
who's making the rules here.
That one guy in the comments said that if it was longer than 45 minutes, he wasn't interested.
That's what she said?
His partner is just...
R.I.P.
I don't even think that was in our comments. I think it was on a Twitter thread. Somebody said, watch this podcast. And he was like, if it's longer than 45 minutes, I'm not going to. And I was like, okay.
All right, well, that tells me all I need to know about how you go downtown. Bye.
Real talk. Kink culture has been so much better for my ability to interpret honor, consent, service, care than any Christian doctrine I was ever handed. And I feel like it would do a service to our listeners for us to take a moment to just explain what it is about Kink culture that gives consent. Like, if we were to articulate it, I think it would make people better. So, like, let's take that moment. If anyone else doesn't want to start, I'm happy to.
Well, I'll start by prefacing it with, like,
That's amazing.
Well, my role in kink culture is very much, like, removed from most people's. So, while I've experienced a lot in my life, but, like, I'm not active in the community, so it's hard for me to say. Like, I don't partake in, like, scene play necessarily. Like,
whoa. Pause. What is scene play?
See, I don't even necessarily know outside of, like, you know, setting up different dynamics of where I was going with it is I have participated in, like, a, like, sadomasochism kind of setup, an S&M setup, in which I was domineering, and I met this guy online, and he walked me through what he wanted. But that's what I was going to say. Like, right there is where the consent starts. As soon as I meet somebody, he says, this is what I like, this is what I'm willing to do, this is what I'm not willing to do, here's what it's playing in my head. If you have your own ideas, you can bring them up now, and I'll let you know if that sounds good. And I was like, I don't have ideas. I've never dommed before, so, like, you're going to have to just walk me through it in advance so I don't, like, break the mood when I'm there. And he did, and he, like, you know, gave me a list of different scenarios of where he likes to be touched, what kind of level of, you know, ropes and stuff. And I got there and I played it out, I played with the scene and I experimented, but I realized like doming isn't for me. I didn't get any pleasure out of it. It wasn't very aggressive or anything. It was just like light bondage and like, some smacks here and there. And I was like, it doesn't do anything on my level. I'm like, thanks for letting me do this. But to this day, he messages me. Like, it's been like 6 years, and he's still like, hey, when are you going to be in LA next? Hey, can you stop by? And I'm like, I wasn't even good. You need to, like, get out of here with that. Anyway, that's like my entire experience with Kink.
If you're listening right now.
That's like my entire experience with like that kind of scene play setup Kink that asks for like different levels of consent. But I am very versed in bathhouses, which are usually very consent-based as well. But I also think that
sexuality is not a pass-fail, right?
It's not. So, like, it's not. I just knew it wasn't for
engaging
me.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, so you might engage in a sexual encounter that, is not for you.
Right.
And maybe it's for them or maybe it's not. Who knows?
That's true.
But, I do personally think that all of sexuality until you die is a learning curve.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah, please.
Okay. I want to play Christian whisperer for a moment.
But okay.
Well, but no, and it's possible that people that out of like rebellion or desire or curiosity have made it this far into this episode with us. I just want to explain to you if you have either continued to ingest purity culture or if you are still very much a part of it and aren't aware. What Jegaysus just explained is someone saying, I have a desire. I know what I want. Here are ways that you could explore that with me. Here are ways that I don't think I'd be interested, and here are ways that I will respond whether I do or do not like it. That is 5 huge things that you, either within your marriage or one day when you will get married or within your sexual partnership or whatever the entanglements that you can experience. Those are 5 things that kink culture that is completely outside of any religious spectrum can teach you about being a good partner. Like, here's one thing. If I were to say one thing to people that want to experience good sex, but they feel like they can't because of religion, it is do not shame the person who is...
Okay.
Go ahead. What?
Oh, no, I just said just bypass that and do it anyway because you won't regret it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do not shame the person that knows what they want.
Right.
Be willing to ask the person what they want. Don't be surprised when they have a good answer. Listen to them when they give you a good fucking answer and play into their desires as much as you're capable of doing, unless you're uninterested, and then fucking say that at the beginning.
Let people know where you're uncomfortable. So many bad experiences come from just like not being upfront beforehand and then feeling like you were coerced into it. I'm not saying there's not actual situations where you're coerced or afraid. Of course there are. We don't support that kind of violence. But I'm just saying there's so many times where you know up front that you're uncomfortable, but you don't want to say something out of embarrassment. And like that's going to make for a bad experience for both parties, but especially for you. And you don't want to do that. Do yourself the favor of saying, I don't want to do this. I'm not interested in this. Here's what I like instead. And coming to a compromise or a discussion beforehand.
And like what you just heard right there, like I have existed in the world where someone knowing what they like is attributed to being a whore. That is real. I wish that didn't exist. I wish that wasn't real. But it is, isn't it? Like, there's so many of you that have ingested this idea that if someone knows what they enjoy without experiencing it from your penis first, it means that they're a whore. And
this doesn't exist in gay culture. I kind of want to point that out. Like, this is where we have this is where we have a disconnect between like hetero norms and gay culture. Like that's not a thing for gay culture. Like we don't in the gay world we all are whores. No, but we don't we don't consider like somebody knowing what they want as slutty. Like we don't have this whole body count rule. And like even when you're on Grindr, one of your opening questions is like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you into?" In the first 3 basic phrases, it's what are you into, because they want to know what your sexual appetite is and what you like on any kind of level. Like, most people are like, I'm a top, I'm a bottom, whatever, but that's not the answer they're looking for. They want to know, like, what are you into?
Specifically, what do you
so that
want
we can
me
get
to
a
do
whole
to
list
you?
to see if we're compatible. And, like, that's just very basic level, like, hi, my name is, this is what I like to do in bed for the gay community.
But also, like, that sounds awesome, because then you go into a situation knowing exactly what to expect.
Exactly.
And not, like, trying to figure it out as you go.
Yeah, so gay community takes that from kink community, I'm sure, because, like, the two have always been intertwined in history. But it's definitely something that the hetero norms and just a stable one-to-one male-female relationship should probably learn from. Definitely.
And, like, it makes me, frankly, it doesn't make me concerned for Christian sexuality, because I think that's an oxymoron. Like, Christian sexuality doesn't exist. Like, even the healthiest versions of, like, quote, Christian sexuality, I'm talking, like, mainstream fundamentalist American Christianity, because it's the only context I'm aware of, it suggests this, like, deeply pleasurable sex after marriage without ever telling you how to get it.
Ugh.
Without ever exploring, like,
Y'all just show up on your wedding night and are, like, jackhammering it in. Like, there's no, like...
I cannot imagine the terror of being married to somebody and finding out the sex is bad.
Dude, so I used to volunteer at nursing homes just as, like,
I would
doing
love
whatever.
to know how
and
this is connected. Please go ahead.
There was this one lady who had, I don't know if it was dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever, but, like, I was, like, 14 when I did this, and I went in, and I'm just hanging out with her in her room because she got no visitors, and I'm just like, how's life? Whatever. And she told me that when she got married, she thought this man had a boil, and she was like, what is that? What the fuck is that? And he was like, what do you mean?
Are you going to tell me it was the head of his penis?
It was his dick, his erect dick. And so, like, I don't know if it was the head of his penis, I don't know what it was, but, like, he was like, that's what a penis is, and she was like, it's not for me, fam. You know, in, like, less direct terms, she still had sex with him and whatever, but, like, I just
she's like, yeah, I don't like that.
How... She's like, ooh, no.
Oh, God, I didn't know about lesbianism yet, and I should have.
Yeah, like, is there another option? Asking for a friend, myself? But yeah, there's just, like, I think we forget how much sexuality has evolved, even within Christian circles. And that is not to say that they are accepting or welcoming or any of the rest of that. But, like, overall, at least we know what's kind of happening, like, physically.
I think with the evolution of the internet and people being able to explore at their fingertips, it's really taken away the control out of evagelism to make sure that people are not...
fingertips?
Yeah.
But also when I was 14, I was like, send help.
Sure. But I mean, like, it's ripped that narrative out of the church, and, like, they're no longer able to police what people are exposed to and see because it's so readily available. And for example, like, I mean, kink culture, I'm sure, has obviously always been around, and yet it's been able to be expanded upon and explored. Like, imagine if you were living in the 70s and you were a furry. Imagine being a furry in the 70s and how confusing that would be. And now you can just go onto TikTok and see furries living their life and, performing as whichever character they choose.
Furry as hell.
And then you can go to a furry convention. And, like, that wouldn't be possible without the internet.
Real talk, we need to do kink culture versus Christian culture sex episode. Like, just
I agree.
Narrow that shit in.
I thought that's what we were going to do tonight. I wish we would go into more details. I want all the details. The teaser for the next time. If we want to get real dirty with it, maybe that should be our Patreon. Maybe that will be we say this every week, but maybe we'll go real deep into kink, and that will be Patreon only. Who knows?
On that note, a couple of things. One, we should probably wrap it up. And yes, wrap it up was a pun. What about it?
Yeah, please wrap it up, especially if you're not in a committed relationship where you know the other person is not cheating. And
wrap it up.
I mean, I find condoms for
Put a hat on it. Yeah, well, you're married,
and
so
I hope,
the rest of us needs a little protection. Okay.
Whatever.
I like condoms, personally.
What?
I was a weird kid. Okay. I was a weird kid when I first found condoms in my father's drawer. I would masturbate with them.
Dog, so one time when I was younger, I don't even know what was happening, but my parents were in the like closet and I saw this giant bag of what I would learn later were condoms. And I asked my parents, like, what are those? And my parents were like, they're candy. And I was like, can I have some?
Oh, no.
They were like, no, it's not for you. Candy. And I was like, what the fuck? That's some horse shit. And then as I grew up, they told me, and I was like, I would like to die now. But,
Can I give a TMI story on why sex education is extremely important?
First, I need to hear more about why condoms turn you on.
I didn't say they turned me on, per se. But I'll go into this.
Was it like a substitute stop?
I'll go into this with my TMI information real quick. So when I did find those for the first time, obviously I opened them. I knew what they were because of whatever remedial 6th, 7th grade education I had, or internet, or who knows. But I was like, let's use this, you know? This is an exploration time. Like, let's see what the deal is. I had not been properly taught how to use condoms at that point. And I still to this day don't know if it was because they may have been expired or not. But I put it on, like, fully on, like, rammed it as far as it could go. No space at the tip. I didn't pinch anything for a little reserve or whatever. So I had that thing stretched out across the tip, and I proceeded like that for the next 2 days. For the next 2 days, there was blood in my urine. And I still, to this day, can't figure out if I broke vessels or if it was because there was lubrication on the inside and it was an expired condom by like 3 years.
What's happening?
But that being said, I tried it again after some research, and I probably went through an entire box like that because it was a new sensation and it was interesting as compared to just like my hand at the time. And I think for that reason, I've never had an issue with condoms.
Wait. That's my 4th wait. This is my 5th. This is my 6th.
Please help.
Wait, 7th. You masturbated with a condom.
Yeah.
Whatever you chose to do.
I've done it as an adult, too.
Phallic gymnastics led to blood being involved at some point with no other parties involved.
Yeah.
For one time or multiple?
What do you mean? The blood?
The blood.
That was one time. That was the first time, and then I hopped on the Google and found out you're supposed to leave space.
Wait. Okay.
On the Google.
Wait. Okay.
www.pornhub.com.
Wait.
That's what I'm saying. Sex education needs to be comprehensive before you're peeing blood. Like, kids need to know what to do.
I feel like I shouldn't laugh at this, but I just...
Well, sometimes, you know how people are always like, no, if you give them sex education, they're going to be doing it with partners. No, sometimes they're just going to do it with themselves.
No, they might just jack off appropriately. Yeah, like...
If somebody does not edit this single section as a teaser for this episode, it will be the greatest...
Why is it always me with the sound bites about my sexual life?
Because the rest of us are boring out here in these streets, you feel me?
That moment when the asexual one is very sexually interesting.
No, that's always the truth for asexual people. Like, they're always weird. In the best way. Wait, I have so many questions. Okay, so, I hope that all of you have thoroughly enjoyed our episode in the week of the Magnificat about...
Not the Magnificat.
Merry Christmas. This is your gift.
It was merry indeed for half of us.
A different kind of Christmas wrapping at the end.
Ow.
Rapping was definitely suggested at the end of this episode. Next episode may very well be a Patreon episode where we talk about kink culture and sexuality.
Maybe I have a latex kink I haven't explored.
You have
coming up in
American
the next
Horror
episode.
Story Season 1. Let me know.
Let's be very clear. Jegaysus has the majority of kinks that Jegaysus has have yet to be explored. I am willing to bet that on, not my money, on Captain Dadpool. Whatever money you have, I bet your
Shots
money,
fired.
I bet your money that Jegaysus has kinks that have yet to be explored. I don't know why
Can we just find Jegaysus a man?
Yeah, I'm single out there, by the way. Anyone out there who's like,
Yeah,
that
like,
fits my mold.
I'm a decent matchmaker, so hit me up.
Subtop
Slide
with
into my
maybe a
DMs.
possible
Let me know
litany
if y'all
of fetishes.
want to hit it with
Wait,
Jegaysus.
a sub
I will.
top? So, like, a top that
Yeah,
listens
wait, explain,
well?
please.
My wife just told me to not be so heteronormative for criticizing a sub top. Babe, I don't understand what a sub top would even fucking do.
I like
they
someone
just-
who takes control. I like somebody who tells me what to do. I like somebody who knows what they want and directs me throughout the process. I like being there.
It sounds like borderline brat, but not quite.
Yeah, but I'm not a brat. I've tried to understand brats.
I am, but you're
I'm
not.
No.
Wait, y'all hold on.
I am obviously one.
I could. Yeah.
Babe,
How often am I a top sub?
you're not a top sub.
Sometimes.
I mean, like, sometimes.
But I'm saying, if it can be sometimes.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tell us more.
you've been asked. No. You come over here. We're talking about sex this episode. So,
Yeah,
like,
no, I've heard.
Yeah, that's true. We did.
so like, as someone who is myself, explain what a top sub would even fucking do.
Well, did Jegaysus say, like, that's one of his kinks?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Oh, I wouldn't even say it's a kink. It's a position. I think more than anything.
Well, yeah. Yeah, your thing.
Yeah.
There's very limited language sometimes. But yeah, no, don't ask me. Ask Jegaysus.
But you spoke loudly enough to be on recording.
Yeah, call you out.
Yeah,
I explained
questions
it,
about Andrew
and I think
specifically.
she was just over here defending my honor.
He was
Yeah,
defending,
shut
said
up,
that
Andrew.
every adult in this household has actively defended your honor today.
Yay!
No, so, like, what I'm revealing is, like, my limited, like, kink mindset. Like, I am a soft dom, like, very clearly.
See, the fact
Like,
that you're
I'm
a soft dom, but
I'm-
don't understand a sub top, they're kind of...
Is
Kind of
anyone
similar.
surprised? Is anyone surprised?
If I am a
Sorry,
soft dom,
please chime
it's
in.
because I give permission to a sub to be on top. And in no other exception.
Yeah, see, so then a sub top would be great within that permissive fields. That's what you would need, a
That's
sub top.
literally what I just said.
I don't know how to feel about
Shit,
this.
You're right.
Your argument was sometimes can't be, like, a consistent thing.
I just didn't understand it outside of my own experiences.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe that'll give the rest of you that are listening and grace towards
You
others.
do be a soft dom,
They'll
bitch. I don't know what to say.
What's up?
And with that, we
Right.
end the
She's like,
episode.
what's a
Of
soft
mine,
dom?
you
Yeah,
decide
we have gone too
and
far.
Just the conversation entirely. Hello.
Anyway, I love crayons.
Let's
So
wrap up the
Crayons
episode
and
though,
shooting.
because we did say that we were closing out, and we did throw up our thing. So
Jesus
let's actually
Christ.
do it this time. Let's close out. Thanks
anyway,
everyone for
so
listening.
hope y'all had fun.
Remember
because
to
I
rate
did.
and subscribe. We're available in podcast form if some of you are only used to YouTube. We need more comments. We need more exposure, especially with me losing my account. Make sure to share it to your friends and let us know that we're here. Email us at unholytrinity2021@gmail.com if you have any future ideas for topics, or if you just want to get some advice, apparently, from some of our...
If you need, like, if you have questions about
Yeah,
kink
from
culture
our
that any of
kinky
us could
hosts.
probably not answer, let me know.
And outside of that, any other sign-off messages you want to put in?
No, love
check
y'all.
out
Thanks for
our
being here.
various social media and check out our petition that Jegaysus gets his account back. Beyond that, subscribe to our podcast channel.
Yes, please.
Smash that subscribe button like you want to smash me.
Smash it.
Okay, bye.
Hit me up if you want me to matchmake with Jegaysus. Bye.